winner will have the opportunity of winning a brand new 15-volume edition of the Encyclopedia Britannica. That's on Trans-Canada Telequiz. Right now, here's Michelle.
Here's George Feyer with 3 of his razzle-dazzle friends and his painting of the week. It takes us all back to a typical Venetian scene of 200 years ago.
This is Tell a Story Time, time for boys and girls to look and listen to. This is Tell a Story Time, when we tell a story especially for you. I'll tell the story and while I sing, Doris will make the music swing. George will draw pictures of everything on Tell a Story Time. Hello, boys and girls. My name is Pat Patterson, and today I've got a story for you about 5 little orphans named Terence, Tommy, Tony, Teresa, and Terry. Yes, these 5 little orphans. Do you know what orphans are, by the way? They're boys and girls who have no mothers or fathers. And of these 5, Terence was the oldest. He was 9 years old. He was followed in age by Tilly, who was 8 years old, Thomas, who was 7, Tony, who was 6, and Teresa, the youngest, who was only 5. Though they had no fathers or mothers, the 5 little orphans lived in a big white house that had a bright red roof and 2 front doors. A front door for going in by and a front door for coming out by. The house was owned by a comfortable lady named Miss Pennyplain, who took care of the children, mended their clothes and cooked their meals, saw that they went to bed early and got up early and got to school on time. Miss Pennyplain loved the 5 little orphans very much. And Terence, Tilly, Thomas, Tony, and Teresa loved Miss Pennyplain, too. For Miss Pennyplain liked to laugh and to sing. And though taking care of 5 little orphans was hard work, she always found time to play with them, to tell them stories, and to teach them songs. Miss Pennyplain began each day by ringing a large silver bell that rang out ding, dong, ding. This was to wake the children up, and when they were wide awake, she'd sing a little song to them, while the children hurried to do what the words of the song said. Terence, Tilly, Thomas, Tony, and Teresa, comb your hair, brush your teeth, and oh, my dears, do not forget to wash behind your ears. Terence, Tilly, Thomas, Tony, and Teresa, shine your shoes, clean your nails so you're aglow. From the top of your head, right down to the tip of your toe. When Terence, Tilly, Thomas, Tony, and Teresa were all shining from the tops of their little heads right down to the tips of their little toes. What's that, George? Look at your toothbrushing machine. Oh, I see it. Well, when they were all clean, Miss Pennyplain would serve them a nice warm...
That people should know more about fall fairs. So here are George and Lister with a short course on fall fairs.
Fall is busting out all over, and fall is the time to celebrate October with the Grand Fall Fair. Everybody's there. The blue ribbon horses and the blue ribbon bulls, the blue ribbon butter and the blue ribbon wools, for there is nothing like a fair. The hot dogs and the candy floss are there, and the animals and vegetables and minerals are there. So welcome to the Grand Fall Fair. The judges are the fellows with the educated palates. They taste and do without their dinners, and then they cast their ballots for the winners. Though it's sweet-tasting candy and sticky to Judge Fudge, the sourest puss will always be the poor pickle judge. This fellow who gnashes his teeth and wishes he'd never been born is a critic. That is to say, he judges corn. But here's something different. For it's hard to be sober as a judge in October when what you're judging is homemade wine. They always get merry when it comes to elderberry, and as for the landidine, then first prize for everybody. But the pies, the pies that Mother used to bake, they're not hard to take. Blueberry, apple, and peach are there. It's the bad-tempered losers that get in your hair. While over here, pigs is pigs, but we must improve the breed to stop the hogs from going to the dogs. Here's the kind of thing we need. Champion Barrymore's Brando of Stratford, Ontario. Anywhere you slice him, he's just pure ham. And what's the fair without monstrous vegetables, marrows like zeppelins, peas like pumpkins. And as for the pumpkins, they're all competing for the prize, and here what counts is size. The winner is the most. Funny thing, it turned out it tasted like rubber. Some competitors try to win by making sheep's eyes at the judges. But it's all right over where they pull the wool. That's the 1960 compact model. And all that embroidery and patchwork quilts, Grandma sits and Grandma knits, and Grandma grabs the blue ribbon. But the poor little sheep that has lost its wool just feels cool, man, cool. A fall fair is the place, of course, where people manicure the horse and fasten ribbons in its hair and make it shiny, you know where, and twist its tail in dainty plaits and shade its head with special hats and brush its coat and frizz its mane until it puts us all to shame. I know two things about the horse, and one of them is rather coarse, and the other one is that horse sense is the thing that horses have that stops them betting on people. This noble beast will shortly make half a ton of T-bone steak. Humane killing is the rule. In Canada, we shoot the bull. A subject big enough to last until the winter months are past. Spring has come and summer gone, and fall fairs once again are on. So George and I say fond goodbye, and for the next 3 months it's pumpkin pie.
That's a very smart dog you've got there, George. She dances rather well.
She is very smart. She can only talk, but unfortunately I have difficulty persuading my friends that she can talk.
Your dog talks?
Yes, she does. But she's very shy. She never talks in front of other people, only to me.
Well, tell me what she said to you.
And you remember the old days when animals were talking? Horses, dogs, and people were talking to animals like Francis and Francis. Miracles happen. Now, miracles do not happen. Then, for instance, a virgin did regular appearances, usually in a remote cave somewhere in France or Italy. But unfortunately, these happenings always occur in front of illiterate shepherdesses. I mean, those miracles nowadays never happen in front of mathematics professors or on the floor of the French Academy of Sciences and all that. It makes one think.
What else does your dog say?
My dog has no small talk. She's very concerned about the human race, and she talks about philosophy and so on. Last conversation I can recall, I'm quoting my dog. She said that the human race has a terrible record, accumulated history of the last 4,000 years, terribly brutal and cruel and savage. And we humans, we claim that we were made in the image of God. And my dog thinks, and I agree with her, that's a very blasphemous statement.
A short while ago, George, our billboard girl mentioned that you are in favor of war. Why?
Because the human animal, first of all, the reason of war, I figure, from readings and all that, is in us, in the human animal. Now, we have creative and destructive instincts and impulses. Now, the creatives are their lucky. I mean, I like to be at home and work and make a living and all that, and walk my dog. There are very many people, like, for instance, here we call them juvenile delinquents, you know, those leather-jacketed slobs who endanger your peace and your streets. And we call them in the South the white trash, and in Russia they are called hooligans. I mean, these people have they need hate outlets.
So what are you saying we should
Now
do?
you channel those hate outlets,
How?
you regulate them. For instance, the international conference would designate a territory, let's say the Gobi Desert or somewhere, you know, enormous territory. And 2-3 million people or more are facing each other, the blues and the greens. I don't say reds because there's political implication not necessary. You see, you channel those violent outlets into a territory. You keep out World War III out of Rosedale, for instance. So you and I, nice bourgeois middle class people, can work. Now, I tell you, war is the answer to overpopulation and population explosion. Now, you see, what is the answer? Birth control. You see, the churches oppose that, but they never oppose war. You see, everybody is happy. I am happy because I can work at home. The churches are happy because there's no contraception or pills. They're very bad. And so there's a nice war going on and on and on. I support it, and you will support it with your tax money. And the industry is going on, humming and supply them with weapons and food and everything. So everybody is happy.
Oh, you're absurd. Is this one of your cartoons?
My life is absurd.
Is this a representative
Yes,
cartoon of
that's
George
it.
Feyer?
Here I pay my disrespects towards the dead because compared to the very little respect is paid for the living. And there are many people I never respected while they were alive, so why should I certainly respect them because they're stiff? There's an old lady, I don't respect old ladies. First of all, I don't respect old age because an old man has first of all, how do you get old? You go on breathing for 85 years and you get old. What's respectful about that? It's not an achievement. And if you're 80 or 90 years old, you have that many years of accumulation of idiocy and prejudice and nonsense. Now, the general theme is absurdity. Life around us is absurd. Human behavior is absurd. I am absurd. I mean, don't think I exclude myself.
Well, let me ask you this, getting away from absurdity. What do the three words morals, freedom, and censorship mean to you?
Freedom is a senseless, meaningless word because it's geographical. Something is free here, like political freedom here. In Russia, Hungary, no political freedom. There, they have more sexual liberties and more liberties in drinking. And I mean, the drinking laws are silly. I mean, they're not made for grown-ups. They're for idiot children.
What about censorship?
Censorship in Russia, the state, the government is the censor. Here there are 500 or 1,000 or many thousands of censors, the sponsors, you see. Like Burton was writing about sex, the government didn't object to it. The private firms and sponsors sort of hunted him down.
Have you got any thoughts on nudity?
All the time, all the time. I see, constantly, you know.
Okay, with that little tidbit, let's go over to our little cooking stool here with that little appetizer from George Feyer. We're going to